Hi, Ross. Welcome to Venture with Grace.
Hey, Grace. Nice to see you.
Okay, to start our show, I would love for the audience to get to know you a little bit more. So, like, you started your career in Netscape. I don't think it was on your LinkedIn profile, but I was like listening to, oh, well, it is on your LinkedIn profile. It
It's
was
way at the bottom.
way down there. Yeah, yeah.
Down to being 1,000 years old.
No, I love that. I feel like so you started your career there as a development engineer. So you have worked on various different top tech companies, including SAP, Symantec, before you joined the side of venture. And during your venture career, you have started not one but two funds. I feel like XYZ is the first fund that you started, but it's your own thing. And then you also joined Village Global as like a founding partner, and later on like you're back at your own fund. Maybe we could start with like what were some core lessons that you've learned early on in your career kind of shape you into who you are today.
Yeah, it's picking up on two of them. It's interesting, Grace, the things that arc the whole way through your career and maybe your life, and they're sometimes very surprising how valuable they are. One, you mentioned my first job in Silicon Valley was working at Netscape, and many people know Netscape as the first browser company. And I did work on the browser, but then I worked on the security server, whose primary customer was selling to the government.
Mhm.
And now, one of the things that XYZ is best known for is our work in the public sector, where we've backed companies like Anduril, which are building new defense contractors, companies like CAPE, which create a secure 5G network, all doing a really weird thing, which is selling to the government. And so it's interesting that that's where my career started, doing that work. And as you said, it's as a core engineer for many Valley companies and a leader for them, and then 15 years in venture, I would not have anticipated that first job was so informative all the way forward. So I think that's one interesting through line that you're going through, or I'm going through, experiencing the compounding learning that you're having the whole way through in my professional career and in now my venture career. Maybe to say the second thing is on the venture side, it's interesting. I actually started both XYZ and Village.
Mm-hmm.
And unlike a lot of venture capitalists, I didn't begin with a career in finance. I didn't begin as a banker. I didn't even start, with any awareness of, trading the crypto, trading the stocks. I was really rooted in being a founder, and I was a founder of a company that Mitch Kapor had backed. Mitch is a legend as the founder of Lotus 123. And he gave me an opportunity to go and scale up Kapor Capital. And again, just compounding there. From Mitch, I learned what it's like to work and find early stage founders. I was at a multi-stage firm called Canaan, which really taught me about scaling capital. And then Village, really about building community, and XYZ fundamentally around then taking all of those ideas and just focusing around a small number of founders you want to go deep with and trying to so damn hard to make them successful. So, and just compounding learning in that last 15 years of venture has been really fun and remarkable.
I love that. I wonder, okay, so like here's a couple of things I'm like curious about. One thing is like you kind of started interacting with the people who are selling to the government very early on, like yourself. And
Yeah.
later on, like I think your biggest success is like, Anduril, like which you have known from like the Palantir people. And like I feel like one thing I'm just curious about, like, you grew your own fund. This is fund four. It's already, you guys have like $1.2 billion AUM across the funds. Um, how do you think about like if you're starting from day one, like walk me through the progress of like you have made through the building your own fund. Like, at the beginning, you said like you started your own fund by before that you were like helping other people starting their fund, and then you kind of like learn the processes of actually building something up from the ground up. And maybe we could talk about like through your journey at your own fund for like 9 years, like, does a 1.2 billion AUM like kind of like compounded after, let's call it year 5, or was it from year 1 it was already a smashing success? Like, what was
Whew.
the pattern that you were like kind of seeing?
It wasn't. It was incredibly hard. I mean, raising first funds is almost universally the hardest thing that you can do in venture. And I'll tell you, the funniest aspect is the work in venture is just the work. Just going and finding incredible companies and being part of them. We have a company just today, Scribe, that announced a round at 1.3 billion. We preceded Scribe and Jennifer when she had a very different go-to-market. Scribe is an incredible company, makes tools that everyone listening right now could use to generate workflows around how they do their job, how you set up a podcast, how do you update your CRM, how do you do support. It's used by millions of people. It's a very, very big business. And it all came, this is just the work of ventures, going and finding Jennifer and Aaron when they're starting that and being through that whole process. So that's the work of venture. And to your point, now we've got a lot of capital and a lot of success, and it's being on that thrilling journey. Day one, awful because I didn't know how to raise capital. So you work as hard to get money from Yale as you do from some random individual. And then the other part, the dirty little secret is, if the work is just the work, the story when you raise the first round of capital, the first fund rather, matters so much. So, and then the secret that I knew, my story then in 2017 was I knew something that nobody else did, which is I had introduced the first employee to the second at Palantir. And this has now been written up a bunch in the Wall Street Journal, all these nice things about my work with them. And because of that early connection and that close relationship with the executive team at Palantir, I knew that it was a crucible for founders. And so when I raised XYZ's Fund 1, it was focused on founders coming out of the Palantir ecosystem. Now, many people know Palantir is just a tremendously large business, selling to the government, selling to healthcare, selling to supply chain, all the things. But then that was a real secret. And Grace, that secret just ended up being correct. So, the founding team at Anduril, the founding team at Chapter, the founding team at Peregrine, the founding team at Hex, the list goes on and on. Cape, Apex, these companies are worth billion to many billions. And that was the original idea, is the ability to identify and find those people that, they're just glass eaters. They're just like, I will go through the hardest things and make a company be successful. And so that was the thing that I knew very early on. And that was what enabled me to raise that capital. And to your point, then it's just the work. So now it's been compounding because those companies have been successful. So there's more and more excitement from LPs to give us capital to go find the next thing. And internally, what that means is I'm always thinking, like, what are we learning from those companies that helps us, better help them raise capital, help them be more successful, and then find the next one as well. So it's, how do you build that flywheel within XYZ so that your companies are successful, they introduce you to more companies, and you kind of run the cycle of success that makes you more than a one-hit wonder. And then that's been the process we've been doing here in the last, is it 8 years, 9 years? It's been a long time.
Yeah. So I have a question about the flywheel. So I think one of the things that you mentioned, it's like, I guess success coming back to, like, they kind of like they have a secret, and the secret is supposed to be like right. And I think like, I guess like, what was the secret? Is that just like selling to the government, or like, I guess that's the newest trend back then, or like, what was the secret that, like, you feel like will help them make it succeed?
So the secret that I knew that helped us raise funds was that the Palantir ecosystem was going to be such a strong source of founders.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I knew. The work has been then going with these early stage companies and helping them be successful and then learning from them. So a real example of that is obviously Anduril. So when we backed Anduril, it was because I wanted to back Brian Schimpf and Matt Graham, who I was really close to. Brian Schimpf is the CEO of Anduril. And what they understood then, which was not obvious, was the opportunity to go build a new defense contractor. And there have been a bunch of accelerations, political and geopolitical wars in the world, but also fundamentally that teams had such a deep understanding of the market need, that the government needed better solutions. And what they had seen intimately, and I had seen through Palantir, is how to go and to help early stage companies successfully sell to the government. And it turns out, in that example, that wasn't one business to go build, but that has actually been a pattern that that we could bring to Anduril to build a whole public sector practice. So now we wanted to back a company called Turbine One. Turbine One makes software that takes information from the edge and helps people do analysis, whether you're planning an operation or planning safety of a port, to pick one example. CAPE, which is a secure 5G network, a secure version of your AT&T service, but it keeps your crypto from getting stolen and helps keep people all around the world safe and secure. Another company that sells to the government. And so what we learned through Anduril and other successes is it's another secret, which is about how do you structure companies successfully to sell to the government. And there are I think 40 people in the entire US that have the ability to really sell early stage software into the government. We're talking like Matt Steckman, the CRO of Anduril. We're talking Shyam Sankar, the CTO of Palantir, Scott Sanders, the head of BD at Forterra, Zach at Hermes. It's a very, very small number. Once you know that, you need those people, or you need people that are on that learning machine path to build a company in the public sector. And you also know that everybody else is screwed. They're just never going to get there because it's such a complex thing to understand. And basically, that's when you need to get the founding team. And ultimately, that's actually what you have to express to venture people that barely understand that category as well. And so that's been the success of XYZ's public sector arc, was being rooted in those ideas, being passionate about making solutions for the government, helping companies, very early stage companies, be successful like Anduril, and then looking for more companies built in that same flavor has made us incredibly successful because of the people that we get to work with.
I have a question. So, how do you structure a company to successfully sell to the government?
The core thing is putting together 3 parts of a pyramid. One is you have to have a mission. Why do people care about this? What are they trying to change? Right now there's a lot of issues in the FAA, for an example, where there's a real demand for better solutions in the FAA. A second part of the pyramid is the operator. What does the operator need? What is the person who's literally doing the job, that's serving citizens? What do they need? And then lastly, you need a contract vehicle. And that means a contract vehicle is usually a multi-year planned project. And that means that contract you're going after probably started 2 years ago. And you need to have shaped that product with that operator for that mission in order to get that business. So that's a pretty sophisticated thing to understand about how you organize that's called a capture activity. Say there is money, it's needed by the operators, and then the government has a mission to go make change and solve that problem there. So what you need are people that are familiar with all three of those use cases in order to be successful. And the example I want to give here is that, Grace, 1 trillion years ago, I started one of the early SaaS companies. And I actually remember, and good credit to them, when I was a founder, I pitched Emergence Capital. And Emergence was one of the few and early leaders in SaaS software. Everything we take for granted now is actually relatively new, because this is like 2007. And I remember when I went to pitch them, they were asking questions about ARR and subscription rates and usage, all this stuff we talk about. I barely knew how to answer it because we were on the cusp of learning those words. And they were ahead. And that's why they backed Salesforce and Viva and other successes. So we see the same phenomena now, which is when we're talking to founders, we're talking in all the 3 and 4 letter acronyms of what the government buys and where do they buy. But we're talking in detail about, like, what are the contract vehicles? Okay, next year, we don't know if we're going to do 4 million or 24 million, but how are we building our BD efforts to go do that? In the same way that SaaS software was different back then, selling to the government, it's a new thing that startups are learning here. And it's really exciting because there's a tremendous number of people that want to sell to the public sector right now. Everything from weapon systems to better software for writing reports to better solutions for Medicaid and Medicare. That is great. I want those companies to exist because I want better software serving all of us through the government, all of us, everyone in America through the government. But the process of selling is this combination of, do you have the contract? Do you have the operators and understand their needs? And then do you have a mission that the government wants to spend money here? And that complexity it's exciting to work with founders. It's a very rare thing to understand.
I wonder, I feel like that's such a great insight. How did the first person kind of like figure this out? And then what is okay, I'll stop there. People complain about my question at once.
The real answer is it just took years. It was the real answer is it comes back to the first experience that I saw way back when at Netscape, where it was so difficult to land and then roll out products. But then once we ran them out government-wide, they were just huge and impactful to the entire way that the government was secured. Then watching Palantir grow, it took Palantir 3 years to get to first dollars. So you really got to watch that process happen, which mattered there around access to the problem. Really a lot of skepticism, like, could you actually help the customer at all? Second thing that Palantir showed is a focus on solutions. Government doesn't really buy products, or they don't buy like features, they buy solutions. Like, can you solve this problem for them? Can you deliver this analysis? Can you deliver this whole weapon system? And those kinds of insights fed my understanding of how we look at companies, how we could look at companies now. So, I'm 25 years into living in this product space, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning every day. So we just had an event last week where we get together all of our companies that sell to the public sector. It's called Capture DC. And everything we were talking about there was about, pricing and how do you come up with the right pricing activities for the government. And we were listening to lessons learned from Aki, one of the presidents of Palantir, interact with one of the senior leaders at one of the more important agencies in the US. And they were talking about how they thought about pricing. These are very opaque things. They're very rare. Many people listening here are super familiar with what it looks like to sell to a YC company, maybe even sell to a big company like a Caterpillar or Apple. How many people have actually sold to the US government? Very rare. And it's such a different motion. So it's lots of lived experiences. And my goal at XYZ is to take those experiences and connect the different founders in our ecosystems that have been successful, so that they are successful faster. And it's awesome to do because you're bringing like real novel information to people. It's so unique. And that's one of the reasons that the public sector has been an exciting place to build, not just because it's $1 trillion of revenue, not just because it impacts every single person in the US, if not on the planet, but also because you're bringing really valuable insights to these companies. If you can show them how to accelerate or how to sell into the government where they might not be able to do that at all, and make that available to them. It's truly thrilling. Because, by the way, you didn't ask this, Grace, but it's like, if I couldn't do this, or I couldn't find a unique thing we were doing at XYZ, we just wouldn't be in business. Like years ago, I had this kind of like dark afternoon, dark couple of days where I'm like, I didn't want to be a goddamn banker. I didn't always want to be somebody that like, oh yeah, I got money, and maybe even I got to the company 2 minutes before Sequoia did, so I got to do the deal. But I wanted to have a unique value, and it's through working with these founders. They're working with Anduril and Cape and Turbine Wanda, the Apex team. You're learning things, and then you're bringing it to new founders. And that's just been maybe the most thrilling part of building XYZ over the years.
I wonder, so like, okay, by the way, I want to shout out to hi Daniel. Like I want to shout out to people who comments. So okay, so I wonder, like you have invested in like some of my friends' company, like they're not like Anduril like alumni group. So from like a deal sourcing pack perspective, like I guess one question is like, how do you find the next like Palantir equivalent? Because it sounds like one of the things that you pick, why you pick that, it's like because it's like a really high moat, right?
Yep.
Like no one else can figure this out. Like, you know,
Yep.
there's tons of like earned insight, and then like it's kind of like very bespoke these days. But I feel like that kind of sector is like a very small these days because everybody have a podcast, everybody have like, you know, 5 newsletters. So like a lot of the knowledge are like kind of out. So like how do you kind of like find the next like big insight group, or like is there like a company that you feel like is kind of like equivalent to Palantir nowadays?
The two thoughts for how we think about sourcing. The first, and I will tell you my deepest, darkest secret of building venture successfully. The main people that we talk to the main people that we source from is our existing founders. Is I'm asking Sahil at Bravado, I'm asking Kobe at Chapter, I'm asking the leadership team at Aerospace Intelligence, I'm asking the CEO of Scribe. Jesus Christ, I can't find anybody as smart as you. Where can I find someone like you? And those are the best people to go talk to because those founders know what other great founders look like. And so, you know, you can go and build motions to go find founders many different ways. Bessemer famously has an ocean of great associates calling people for their business. You know, some folks are out there, they're big on Twitter, and they're going to go pick all the political fights because then they're going to be, I don't know what they're going to be. That ain't us. What we do is we want to go deep with the people that we love and we love to build with, and then just tell them how desperate we are to find more people like them. And those are the folks that we spend the most time with. Good.
Oh, you go.
I was to tell you the second thing. The second thing is you talked about how, you know, you're looking for moats. You're looking for these advantages. We found them in public sector, et cetera. I want to tell you my view of venture. If you don't have that, you are screwed. That is like, I'll give you a real example, real challenging example. A couple of friends of mine and a couple of companies we've looked at are all building a new ServiceNow, an AI-powered ServiceNow help desk. There are 20 companies doing this right now. And probably 5 of them are great teams, great ideas. They are all getting funded. They are all going to go to war with each other. And by war, I mean their salespeople are going to call the same customers. Their product teams are going to build the same feature sets, and they are not going to be differentiated. And one of them will be successful, but the other 19 are probably just dust. And the real challenge is, I picked that example, so you have to find novel ideas. If you don't, in this job, you are just done. You are done. Nothing else works. You might get marked up. You will not get outcomes. And the good news of that, as a founder and investor, is when you come up with something novel, it's so fun. It's so different. So we're hunting for that new, different, exciting thing, not just because, the blogs say you should, but because that's the only way to be successful. And then when you see it, you're like, this is going to be awesome. Great. So we're going to build the next great thing because our thing is different than everybody else's. And I love doing that. Like, that's the best thing. It's the only way to make money. Honestly, it's the only way even to found a company, because then your thing is definitively different, and it's going to be definitively fun to build for customers, fun to recruit your friends to work out, because you're going to win. And that's just, that's what you're looking for in life.
Sorry, I was just like furiously typing because I was like taking notes. I don't want you to hear me just like,
But is it like one of the many note-taking apps just going at any? There's like 50 things that lit up when I started this call that said, like, do you want to record this with Notion, Granola, Zoom, LinkedIn can do something? It's like, I feel like the notes should be done for us, right?
I know, but I feel like when I'm taking notes, I'm actively listening to you, so I can like ask something that's not dumb. So like, maybe I'm still asking something dumb, but how do you know, like, I guess like one thing that from our conversation is like, how do you know who is good at the beginning, right? So like now you have the flywheel because you already invest in like unicorn, and then they like basically they know other unicorn founders, blah blah blah. But like at the beginning, like in year one, like how do you even know who is gonna be like big, or are they very obvious like after like a year or two after investing?
The answer is is really references and taste. But actually, I want to say something different. The hardest part is not who's good, because the people you want to work with, they are execution machines. They work harder than everybody else. The second thing that those people have is they have a deep insight in a market. So Ian Cinnamon runs a company called Apex. Apex makes satellite buses. If anybody here is going to go spend $500 million to go build a constellation of satellites, you should call up Apex. That's what they do. They make these satellite systems. That man is in the CEO, Ian, is in every room. He's probably on his way to Japan right now because they're building a new constellation, or coming back from whether it's Europe, DC, London. It's covering every base. So you have to have execution ability, and you have to have a unique insight about what's needed. And Ian understands what's needed in the satellite ecosystem, what's missing as people build constellations. Okay, here's the story. Here's the real truth. Ain't enough. The thing you need is that amazing execution, the deep insight, and then you need the market to shift in your direction. There's an old metaphor, idea. There's the surfer, that's our Ian. There's the surfboard, that's the company, that's Apex. But then there's the wave. If you don't have a wave, everything is just so hard. You can build a company, but it's so hard. So I spent a lot of time with our founders trying to figure out and trying to look for that wave of change. So I'll give you a real example. Jennifer Smith, the CEO of Scribe, they just announced their round today, 1.3 billion. But in the earliest days, Jennifer had that execution ability, tremendous talent. They had a deep insight about what was missing was tools that you or I or anyone could use to record their work and share that with other people. The thing that made Scribe an amazing business is they figured out they figured out that the users for Scribe were very, very, very diffuse. It was not a head of support at Wells Fargo. It was not a single buyer, a single enterprise company. It was gonna be hundreds, thousands, and then millions of people using this in their job. It was gonna make their business. They have a product-led growth motion that gets used by many, many, many roles across the world. That insight was hard won because in the pre-seed days, they were doing an enterprise motion because Jennifer's an incredibly charismatic enterprise seller. They built an enterprise product because Aaron is a tremendously good enterprise builder. But the iteration they went through was figuring out how to take the friction out of the product and eventually discovering that that many roles needed their product. So they couldn't just target one group. They had to target whole communities of people and then make their product broadly adopted. And then that's led to their success. And that all came as the team was like reflecting, like, how do we make this product move faster? How do we get the market to move us? And in that example, we learned lessons from companies like Loom and Atlassian and a lot of hard work. And then once that flywheel started moving in that company, it's just been tremendously successful. And that is, of course, wildly different from the Andurils of the world, which went from like one product to doing sensor towers to going and discovering counter UAVs, counter drone systems, to then building autonomous planes. A very different motion, but the same thing was occurring there. It's like under the covers, the team was trying to find velocity. How was the market changing so they could benefit from it? And so that ends up being the high order benefit. And now it's really changed because early in my venture career, I was thinking, like, is this person going to eat glass? Are they going to go hard? Do they understand something unique about the market? Now I'm like, those things are necessary, but what also I'm looking for is the market shifting in their benefit? Sometimes you can't tell that. So my investment is, do I believe that person is going to be able to shift into that benefit? Are they going to be able to find something? Can they go discover velocity? Not just can they build, not do they have a good idea, but also can they go discover velocity? If they can't, that company's probably not going to work.
I agree with you, and I have a question for you. By the way, hi Diego. So he's glad that he's someone on this. So I wonder. So like these people. By the way, this was like inspired by I was on like a pitch. So I was at a pitch night. I was a judge at the pitch night. So Anne from English Global was also on our panel, and so like I think one of the founder asked me like or no. So Chris, one of the other judge, basically said that like he doesn't like people from pivoting from crypto to AI. I didn't say this on stage, but I was like, actually, I do. Like, I feel like I like them, like because I am like a crypto influencer, and now I'm like in AI myself, like because I feel like it's kind of like what you said about the shifting with the market or shifting to where the market is. I kind of feel like the best founder, you have to pick up whatever you have to like, move to a different country. If you have to like make this work by different country, I mean like from crypto to AI, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you think about these like mega trends that's shifting? Because like, I'm sure like everyone's talking about like, oh, there's an AI bubble, it's going to burst, blah, blah, blah. Like, but like, what do you think about these kind of like mega trend shift? And like, should you like pick up your bag and then move? Or like, should you just build at the crypto land right now?
I think that this varies so much person to person. I think it's not about the opportunistic shifting to the next thing that's hot. It's about figuring out, are you delivering something of value, and is the market pulling you? Like that's what you're looking for in life, and I think that's what the best founders want. Is they're looking to make something of value, and then to the market to pull them into an area of real excitement, because that's how you make a bigger business, and that's just how you have a big impact. I'll give you another lived experience that we went through. There's a company of ours called Glade. Glade is a company that my friend Kieran started. It's his third company that we've done together. And what Kieran did, he actually started again in this sort of amorphous days. He was doing some stuff in crypto, doing some stuff in influencer marketing. But what he was really doing is he had built a really interesting product that helped people interact with their communities. Vague. But when he started seeing real pull from lawyers to better use his community products to help to work with their customers. And he saw how AI could help automate a bunch of those processes. He just leaned into that hard because Kieran's a great entrepreneur. So he'd been sort of doing discovery, but then but the thing that he found and that Glade provides is there are these very large law firms, primarily in bankruptcy, immigration, personal injury, that were trying to use AI and failing to make that AI actually improve their revenue, improve the way that they worked with customers. And he has leaned into that. He did everything that a great founder would. He then started spending time with a small number of those customers, building exactly the feature sets that they needed, identifying what the existing incumbents couldn't do, and just leaned into that process. And now he's been scaling that business dramatically. It's the same story that I told you that Scribe did. It's like you're always in this discovery motion of where to go and where can you be maximally valuable. I think that's what the best founders are doing. The things that the best founders know that that's authentically valuable. They're not telling some story to themselves or venture people or blog posts. They're living with those customers, like knowing the thing that they're doing has real and meaningful value. And I think that's what people are drawn to. I think, as a founding team, as people joining companies, I think that's what you should be looking for, is just like authentic value and then just velocity. Early it's learning, and then ultimately it's market pull and the dynamism of that.
I like that. I feel like it kind of like, I think you explained this very clearly, that because, it's kind of like following the market pull instead of like going with like mega trends. Like it's kind of like seeing who use your stuff and then really lean into it. How do you think about the founder's expertise, right? So like, I'm thinking selfishly, I was thinking when you were asking this, I was thinking about like my best content was actually not my second best content. My best content on TikTok was on Roblox. Like I was like talking about like a one piece of AI news. It's like happened to be Roblox, and then it's got like tons of views.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, should I be pivoting myself into like a Roblox influencer now? But like, how do you think about like which kind of trend to jump on, which trend not to jump on?
Yeah, I think again, in that let's use that real example. And I've seen it play out in companies over and over. I'll bet you probably did like one more bit of content about Roblox. You're kind of feeling like, is there a little bit more, like, is this a mega trend, or is this just a small thing? And I think that's what companies are constantly doing. They're making these micro experiments. And the real answer, like I think the higher bit, is nobody knows. You're just basically making the best decisions based on the information you've got right now. And you just lean into that if there was probably more pull. There's another world where there was tons of pull, and this is Grace's Roblox show, and all we're talking about is building stuff on Roblox and Roblox audiences, and oh my God, that's the whole thing. If there's actually enough market pull for that solely. So I think that's just so much of building businesses. I think is you're trying to figure out how big is this. I'll give you another example. We have a company of ours called Oro. Oro is an enterprise software company that sold to chief procurement officers, big ones, big, Fortune 100 companies. And one of the things that's really interesting there is all those executives, chief procurement officers for the world's largest companies, they're all thinking about AI. That team directionally was like, we're pretty skeptical. We don't think it matters, until they found something that authentically mattered, which is if you're the chief procurement officer of one of the largest companies in the world, you got some software, but you spend hundreds of millions of dollars on services, hundreds of millions, because you're running a massive company. Think of the biggest company you could think of, and then think of everything they purchase. So there's services dollars that get spent. Well, it turns out you could use AI on top of Oro's system to make the world's largest banks, the world's largest biopharmas, the world's largest consumer packaged goods companies, take that hundreds of millions of dollars in services and break it down by half. So you know what you should do? You should lean really hard into doing that. You should lean really hard into that insight, because it means I'm not going to make $1 million from this very large company. I'm going to make 20 million, because I'm going to save them 50 million in services spend. And like, that's the kind, I use that example because it sounds obvious in retrospect, but the company is going through a learning, because they've got the same skepticism that you had in your head, Grace. You're like, I don't know, really? Roblox? Is this a big audience? Is it my audience? Is it what I feel drawn to? Is it really? You're kind of like listening to yourself and like maybe doing micro experiments, but then if it shows up, you lean all the way in. And that just, I think this is just the pattern of being a founder. Is like, nobody knows the answer. You're getting some data, and when that data is positive, you lean in as hard as you humanly can, because that's exciting, it's fun, and that's how you build a really big business, and other people want to be part of that. And it just, you get all the benefits of scaling success and momentum that start kicking in, and that's what you're looking for as a founder. So you tell me if you should go do 5 more things of Roblox, and then we can just have a Roblox only discussion, which I'm there for. I've got a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old. I'm all about it. So
I love that. I don't know if you make these like Roblox pancake.
Oh, the restaurant one?
No, like I feel like I've constantly seen, like I've been like feeding into like a lot of like the Roblox content since I make the Roblox content. So like showing me these like moms making Roblox pancake. I'm sorry. I just made breakfast.
Oh, I have a terrible and unfair cheat. My wife is many amazing things, but she also used to be a line chef. So everything on food, yeah, I know. I tell you, like, we'll see. Like, she and my 9-year-old made a tea cake today because they just saw it on TV. And like, cool, I'm just gonna whip out a strawberry themed tea cake with like strawberries and pink filling. So I get the benefit of always being on the side of that. So one of her and my daughter's many skills is just being able to pick up a food thing and make it into reality. So that's a cheat. I get to be lazy there because she does all the hard work on that part.
That's amazing. Also, Adeola says this is an amazing conversation because you shared amazing insights. Okay, so I don't want to disappoint the audience, but we're gonna shift towards VC. So okay. One thing is like maybe we could talk about like XYZ's like portfolio construction, like how many companies you're investing and what kind of stage, and then what's the check size or like ownership that you're targeting.
Yeah, the it's interesting. XYZ, since we started, has had the same basic idea, which is invest with and be intimate partners to founders, and then when those founders are scaling up, scale up capital into those businesses. So as we've raised, we've got companies we put $1 million into, and we've got companies that we put tens of millions into, where they've wanted us to be continued scaled capital partners. So that's what we do from a money perspective, is find the best people, invest in them, and then just keep investing the whole way up. Every company I've talked about today, we have put more and more money in as that company has showed they are into one of these markets that's moving in an exciting way. Economically, what that means is we are an early stage investor, so we are almost always the first check. We we'll write that check from $1 million to $10 million. We are ownership driven because that's what I just love it's a lived experience as a VC. When things are crappy, I like being deeply involved because I'm trying to make something work. That could be pivoting the business, could be shutting it down, could be getting it bought. I like being a whole part of that. And I certainly like when it's all up and to the right and you navigate things, you get all the benefit. So we're big ownership oriented investors. We don't really do the, hey, you seem great. We know that somebody else already won the deal. Here's $250K. It is not how I operate. I'm kind of all in. And so we'll get an early stage portfolio with say 40 companies in it, and that's a given fund. And then we just dollar concentrate into those companies as a subset of them scale, and really as we can be a deeper and deeper partner to those businesses. So we've got companies like Chapter, which is Chapter's a Medicare broker. Everyone over 65 in the US is going to get Medicare. They need guidance because, Grace, the healthcare system in the US, it's, I think it's like, I don't know, twisted, bizarre, crazy, insane. So all of our parents need help going through that process. Chapter does that. And then later we led a Series B in Chapter, and we just keep concentrate dollars because that market is huge and that team is incredible. So we get to do that kind of stuff. So that's how we think about it. Like, be intimate, be deep and big owners, leading early stage rounds, and then we'll dollar concentrate in the things that we know intimately.
What are like the sectors that you're focusing on now? Like, because, obviously there is the
a hype cycle in public sector, a hype cycle in AI, a hype cycle in maybe everything. The answer is we're doing two things here. So we invest in the public sector, selling to governments. We invest in enterprises. We invest in the product-led growth, like very efficient tools going out to individuals. And we do a lot in fintech. Companies like Daffy, which does a donor advised fund that all of you should use, because you should give money, whether a little or a lot, provided to society, and get a tax break for it. So that's the stuff that we do. Government, enterprise, fintech, that's most of our universe. Okay, what are we doing? We're doing two things. One is those areas where we're deep experts. I actually think there's more to do. And we actively made a choice, like in the public sector, we're still investing there. There's a lot of optimistic pricing in public sector, but I think there's still incredible businesses to build. And so what does that mean in the VC? You're trying to be selective, you're trying to be careful, you're trying to forgive yourself when you miss out something because you're being too selective, and then you feel bad for weeks like I do, because you should have won those deals because you're an expert. So that's one thing. So we keep doing those same things. And we're looking at public sector deals. We're looking at AI applications, God forbid, that all sound the same, but we're looking for those teams that have a truly differentiated view, and then we're trying to keep them secret from everybody else so we get momentum before everybody goes and backs a competitor. And then the second big thing that we're doing, that's all the stuff we've done. The second big thing we're doing is we're looking for changes in the market. Example of this, Camille Ricketts, who works on my team as a partner here, used to be the CMO of Notions. She is so wise because she'll tell you how much go-to-market and marketing has changed post-AI because of the shift from SEO into GEO, the generative AI discovery motions, because of influencer motions changing. And that being a discovery of, I'm going to choose which Roblox game I'm going to choose because which one Grace tells me to go choose. Those changes are just tremendous. Those shifts are really, really massive. And so figuring out what is the next generation of the tooling there. Companies like Agency, which is AI-powered version of performance marketing that we've invested. But the big thing is that whole market is changing. All the markets are changing. All those jobs are changing. And that's a really big shift. So we're looking for those new big shifts. And the way I think about this in a VC mindset is you need to be wrong for 2 years and you need to be incredibly right. So you have to be contrarian. There's money to be made in MarTech, which Camille is wise to that idea. And then you need to then lean in hard to that. That's the job basically, is to go find those new things. I'm also spending a lot of time right now in fintech because we've done some of the most successful fintech infrastructure companies. We did a company called Sardine in the anti-fraud space. And so I'm trying to figure out okay, there's stable coins everywhere. And if you don't know what a stable coin is, the most interesting thing is it's a very easy way to move money between currencies, for countries, and which is a place that used to be really difficult and banks are really extractive in it. But if that's ubiquitous, who cares? What's a differentiated view on top of stable coins? So we're spending time thinking about that. But just like with founders, like Grace, if you and I were starting a company, you're that amorphous phase where you know it, you talk to a lot of people, you're looking around the market, there's something in here, and it's kind of You're in that discovery phase. So that's what we're doing. Executing the areas that we know so well, like in the public sector and the enterprise side and the PLG motions. And then we're doing these new areas where we're looking for like the next great thing to go do. And happily, I get to do that myself. I get to do that with our investment team. I get to do it with my partner, Chauncey. She's based in New York, with Camille, and with Art. So it's really a great group that's doing work here together.
I love that. I actually met your marketing partner at like TechCrunch like 2 years ago or something. And then she's great. And then like basically she told me about like the event marketing is gonna be making a comeback. Obviously, like now I'm also an event marketer now. But what is, I guess, like what would be one thing that you would look at in the Marcom space? You mentioned about like, GEO, and then there's also the AEO, like I guess like the everything is like new now.
I think we haven't settled on the new acronyms, I don't think. I think what the two things that have been really interesting is where one, Camille is such a deep expert here, so I'm going to crib on her notes. One is just the way that consumers and buyers are finding products has just changed so dramatically. We all know this, right? You're asking ChatGPT, should I buy the Hokas or the Nikes? Like that whole world is shifting. The thing that I would say there is it keeps shifting, right? We don't yet know, how much, what's OpenAI going to do? What's Anthropic going to own in terms of like what functionality versus what's going to be delivered by somebody else. And this has existed before. Those of you that have been around long enough, you remember the Facebook developer launches, and suddenly you got whole new things in the platform, and it turns out there's some things the platform is just going to own. So you don't get to do that. You can't build a business there because it's going to get owned by the platform. So we're in kind of a lot of change, but and by a lot, I mean change how, I don't know, $500 billion gets spent across the US a year, or some giant number. And we're trying to figure out how to take advantage of those shifts and build something of value. The second big idea I think she would point to is how AI is going to supercharge all those individuals. And that's true whether you're a large enterprise, marketer, or whether you're an SMB marketer. The way that you get superpowered in your job is going to change. And so tools to superpower that marketer working with the sales team, or superpower that marketer working with the influencer, that's all changing as well. So those are the two dimensions that of change. And then everything else is like best people, best ideas, working against that to build durable advantage businesses. Super easy, right?
Exactly. So easy. I can't. But so actually I saw many people so I'm doing a dinner tomorrow. Oh wait, I'm doing a dinner on Wednesday. And then this weekend I was on like a YC yacht party, and I was like talking to a lot of these like newer people who are like doing these things. Like, everybody's doing like the viral kind of like clip situation. Like some people are working on the AO or DO space. You mentioned about like supercharge the marketer's job, right? But which type of marketer do you pick, right? These are, I guess, like some people are selling to Fortune 500. And that last week I chatted with the like senior partner from McKinsey. They're like, the Fortune 500 people, they don't buy, like, I think it's very similar to what you said about like the defense people don't buy like a product, they buy like a solution, right?
Yep.
Like the big company, they don't want to risk stuff to like with a startup that they never heard of or whatever. So how do you think about like, who should these people sell to actually justify the, $100 million ARR at some point? Or maybe nowadays like $500 million ARR or whatever is like the new benchmark to be a unicorn.
Yeah, I mean the answer. This is like so much devils and so much details, as we talked about here. Scribing up finding success because you sell everywhere at once, and agency has had tremendous success with actually the most sophisticated performance marketers, because those are the people that know how hard their job is. So if you're superpowering them, and those people work at some of the largest brands in the world, they have actually the most demand. So I think it comes down to founders figuring out how to take their products to market in a way that there's every part of like your ideal customer profile you can start with and expand and go from there. Because for every McKinsey person that goes like, oh, people want to buy solutions, they don't want to work with startups. Sure, run the clock forward 2 years and you're no longer the startup, you're the incumbent. And maybe that's because you closed all the cool perplexities of the world and you got to that point. Or maybe you chose one vertical and you crushed, CPG, and then you went somewhere else, into a next. So I think it's different paths. I think the role of the founder, the thing that I've seen for founders do is, again, you don't know, but you take the most signal you got and then you just lean into that strategy. I'll give you one that I'm thinking about right now a lot, which is this is a kind of a deep cut. There's like two people in the audience that are gonna maybe think it's interesting. Is healthcare drugs, GLP-1, the weight loss drugs, a bunch of that stuff have shown that there's a demand for direct-to-consumer products. Most drugs not sold direct-to-consumer, except for over-the-counter. Buy your Advil, take your Tylenol. The reality is there's an interesting idea of like what happens if more drugs go direct-to-consumer. What if that's a changing pattern? And there's 10 levels of belief and 10 levels of healthcare change that are in that. But like, that's an interesting thing. So if you're thinking about how to help drug companies sell direct to consumer, which isn't just like some weird, ad of people walking on the beach and butterflies talking about, do you have, IBS, whatever. Instead of you're like a direct to consumer approach, and if that's a way new drugs get built, like that's interesting. And I'll tell you, there are not shit tools to help you do that if you're in that job. And like that's an example, like that could be a changing and interesting trend. So I use that example not to say everybody should go start that company, but it's like that story is in is in billions of dollars of spend that affects tremendous numbers of people, and there's a complete gap of tools. So there's probably something to build there. And so that's what I mean. Like I'm looking for things that are novel. I think founders are looking for things that are novel against those trends. And that's a go-to-market example that isn't just my widget is brighter and blinkier lights than somebody else's widgets. No, there's a macro change. I have an insight and I'm going to work like a son of a bitch to go make that real if that market comes into me, if it makes sense.
That's super interesting. And I definitely do see these like GLP commercials all the time on my TikTok or like YouTube TV or whatever.
The question is that going to come to more drugs? Are there going to be more drugs like that? And as people's deductibles keep going up and you're going to use your HSAs, you're going to choose that, whether that's for cosmetic drugs that I need and you don't because I'm old, or whether it's going to be for other kind of points of like interesting care. Like you're not going to get that for oncology, but there's a lot out there that could come along that well, this is the venture capitalist to me, that there's a whole set of people that have observed this direct to consumer GLP drug. If you can get something that really has value and has momentum, maybe that's the way to go build a new $10 billion business. That's an interesting observation. And so that's kind of what I'm hot on. That's different from the norm. And that came from a friend of mine who's like worked at Facebook, went to another large biopharma to help them out. He's like, where there's a problem is this. I'm like, that's interesting. So maybe something will come of it, and that'll be a wave, and we'll be talking about the Anduril of consumer drug go-to-market, or maybe it won't because the market doesn't show up, the founder doesn't show up. But that's the joy of ventures. You get to like think a lot of like, hey, I think there's something different in here, and then we get the pleasure of meeting that right founder. Boy, we can just go rip, and that's again fun and joyful.
I love that. On that note, I have like a 30-second fire round for you. What's your favorite book?
My favorite book ever is probably Catcher in the Rye. My favorite book right now is I'm obsessed with San Francisco books. So I'm actually reading Seawolf, which is a Jack London book, the old San Francisco author, or The Season of the Witch, which I just reread, which is stories of San Francisco since the 50s up through the 90s. It's an awesome book. If you moved to San Francisco recently to like start your AI fever dream, you should read it just to connect you with the city. It's everything from well, it's the full history of San Francisco through stories. So I love those. And then I'm always a sucker for trash sci-fi. I read a lot.
Love that. Who would you invite to your dinner party?
Living or dead?
It's your party.
Oh man, I love that. Well, who would I invite? I would invite Thurgood Marshall because I just wrote a book about him, and that guy is just amazing. I would invite Albert Einstein. My great grandfather worked with Albert Einstein. I would just love to sit around and hear about my great grandfather and talk physics that I wouldn't understand fully because I was a shitty mathematician. And I would talk to Winston Churchill because that dude just seems made of tough stuff. That's the four of us. We're hanging out.
Wow. Who made the biggest impact in your career?
I mean, honestly, so many people over the years. To pick two, Mitch Kapor. Mitch gave me my first job in venture. He taught me how to work with founders and just also how to love other humans because he's such a deeply caring person. I would say Reid Hoffman and John Lilly on the venture side because I'm thinking about venture versus life, where big impacts. But I'm gonna go trite but true. My mom's biggest impact, not only the whole birthing part, but like my mom is the part of my brain that's like, you're not working hard enough. You're not working hard enough. You're not doing enough, and it's ever present and it's completely fucked up. And for another time, I can tell you stories. Like I get on the top of the Midas list. No, I get near in the middle of the Midas list, and my mom's reaction is like, you should call all the people ahead of you and understand what they're doing so you can get better. So that she gave me a fire in my belly that I don't even know how or why, but it's the biggest value I have in my life, I think, is because of her. So
That
maybe I should just have dinner with Mitch, Reid and my mom. Maybe that's more fun than all these dead guys.
Oh, I feel like that's more doable too. So
you'd be surprised. Those people are all very hard to book. The dead people are easy. Just bring them back, get the Ouija board going, and you're off and rolling.
Everything AI. What AI tool couldn't you live without?
Oh, I'm gonna give you a counter question that someone asked me that I thought was so smart.
Okay, go.
Grace, what if I took away all your AI tools? Do you care?
No.
I'm not sure. I think I could live without all of them.
I mean, I lived without all of them when I was born, so I think I can live. So,
but which one you wouldn't give up Google? A lot of people would not give up Instagram. Not my thing. A lot of people couldn't give up Twitter. God forbid. You have a dark life. I think I could actually give up all my AI tools, but I'm going to go deep research because it makes my job so much easier, and I can sound so much smarter when I go talk to other people because deep research has taught me so much.
Okay, I have a question. So, how do you use deep research? And then this will be my last question, and then I'll let you go. But
two answers. One, I ask other smart people what they do. Amar, Lucy, Jean-Claude on my team, they've written these prompts that then I just stole their ideas, and then I just say, "Hey, I'm meeting with Grace. Here's her company. I'm worried about differentiation and competitors. Give me a give me a summary." So use the prompt against whatever you're doing, and the consistency, the repeatability of that is probably the most helpful for me. So it's less the one-off and more like, hey, I stole ideas from other people on my team on how to do it, and I just introduced a little repeatability, and it makes me consistently better. Different from the, hey, I don't know, teach me how interest rates are going to change in the future, deep dive. Repeatable processes does it for me every time.
Love that. Okay, last question. Where can we find you outside of work?
Say again?
Where can we find you outside of work?
Oh, outside of work, I'm a runner. So I did China Beach this weekend and Tennessee Valley before it. So I always want to be outside. I'm looking forward to snowboarding season because venture people can't do anything. You sit around and ski. I love the outdoors, and that's great. And that's probably the biggest thing. And then the other one for me is I'm at home in San Francisco, and that's because one of my kids is a homebody. So I got to play Clash Royale with him if I want to get quality time.
Love that. Well, Ross, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was such a fun conversation.
It was the best. Thanks, Grace.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.